نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الحنين الكريم الرؤوف الرحيم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله تبارك وتعالى من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا صدق الله مولانا العظيم. Respectable guests, honorable media representatives, by grace of Almighty God, this is indeed an historic, a significant, and a very pleasant opportunity for me to be with you. And we are gathered here today to announce and declare a very significant and historic edict, a ruling which is going to be a jurisprudentially authoritative document known as Fatwa in classical Islamic term. And this Fatwa is an absolute condemnation of terrorism without any excuse, without any pretext, without any exceptions, without creating any ways of justification. This condemnation is in totality, in its comprehensiveness, in its absoluteness. I would say total condemnation of every act of terrorism, in every form and every manifestation of radicalism and terrorism, which is being committed or which has been committed for the last 1 or 2 decades wrongly in the name of Islam. I would like to go directly to the subject so that I may give some glimpses of this document which I have written, which consists of 600 pages. At the moment, this is in Urdu because primarily my concern was to address the people of Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and that part of the world where the active military operation is going on against the terrorism. And war of terror is being fought for the last more than 10 years. But its brief summary, English summary is already in your hands. That is actually the preface of this fatwa. And what I'm going to discuss today is not included in that summary. Whatever is included, it will be up to you. You can read it later. But I'm going to give the actual material with evidences and arguments of fatwa directly from the document. And within next couple of weeks, the full English translation is coming up. Almost more than half has been translated. And in the next few weeks, you will be able to read the full text of this fatwa in English and in Arabic version. I would like to start that Islam is a religion of peace. And Deen in its totality comprises 3 grades. The first foundational grade is known as Islam. And second higher grade is known as Iman. And the third, the highest grade is known as Ihsan. Islam means submission to the will of Lord. Iman means certification and cordial confirmation of that submission, so that there is no conflict between your outer self and inner self. And the third stage, ihsan, is known as the excellence, perfection, and beauty of that submission as well as that confirmation. Deen of Islam, the religion of Islam, its totality contains these three parts, and nothing is out of this ambit. Everybody who claims to be a Muslim, our younger generations, our scholars, and the people who are confused on the subject, they should very clearly know that the word Islam, its root word, origin which it has been derived from, I'm talking of its literal and lexical meanings, is salama, salima, yaslamu, salaman wa salamatan. And it means just peace, security, protection, pleasure, tranquility. And the word Islam, as far as its meanings are concerned, it does not possess any fear for mankind, or grief, or pain, or remorse. This is based on the term salam. And by salam, the word salam is used for the house of paradise, Darus Salam. This is one of the beautiful names of Almighty God. And Darus Salam, the Jannah, the paradise, is known based on the word Islam, its root Salama, because this is home of peace and happiness and tranquility. In the same way, Allah's name is As-Salam, because He is transcendent and free of any shortcoming and extinction and cruelty or harshness. So the word Islam, with its actual lexical meanings, denotes beauty, betterment, goodness, and negates all forms of mischief and strife. Furthermore, the word salam is known for an evergreen shady tree. The second meaning of the word salam in Islam, which is a magnificent and evergreen tree. This is a tree safe from autumn, decay, and fall. It means now, lexically, that everything providing shade, benefit, peace, and security to the people will inherently conceived as salam, salama, and salama, meaning thereby Islam. Again, this word is used for ladder and staircase. All other methods of climbing without ladder and staircase, like jumping, would end up in some fall, injury, or even loss of life. Islam, the word from sulam, it means to climb up safely without any loss and without any damage. Again, the same word salam is used for a large bucket to fetch water from the well, so that a thirsty quench their thirst by drawing water with its help, and needy may get benefit out of it. Since water is the fountainhead of life, irrigation, coolness, calm, pleasantness, vegetation, and greenery, and fetching water through this bucket, therefore it means a peace and survival of life. If you go through the dictionary books, starting from the beginning till today, you may consult 100 Arabic dictionary books. You won't find any other seventh meaning of Islam in its literal sense other than these which I have mentioned. So each and every aspect of its lexical implication implies on peace and security and happiness and tranquility, and there is no concern of any bad behavior or cruelty or any kind of danger. That's why Holy Prophet declared the same word in its technical sense in his saying, Al-Muslimu man salim al-nasu min lisanihi wa yadih, that the Muslim is someone from whose tongue and whose hands the humans are safe. This is not reserved and confined to Muslims. Holy Prophet used the word man salim al-nas. There are two different hadiths. I am quoting those whose hands and tongues protect the human beings. Again, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal quotes by Abdullah bin Amr, and the first hadith was reported by Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Holy Prophet was asked, Anna rajulan qala ya Rasul ayyul islami afdal, qala man salima an-nasu min lisanihi wa yadihi. Which is the best act of Islam? He said, to provide safety and security to the people, to the humankind in general, through your tongue and through your hands. This is the best act of Islam. Again, Abdullah bin Amr relates from Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Imam Tabarani quotes it. Holy Prophet was asked, Ayyul Muslimina khayrun, Ya Rasulullah, who is the best of the Muslims? Holy Prophet replied that man salim an-nasu min lisanihi wa yadih. The best of the Muslims is a person from whose tongue and whose hands the human beings are saved. It means any person whose acts are against the safety and security of human beings in any case cannot be considered within the ambit of Islam. Second word is Iman. It is based on the origin word Aman, that is Amina, Ya'amanu, Amanan, wa Amanan. These are the literal lexical meanings. And from it, this Aman, the word Mu'min has been derived, where we say the use word Mu'min for a believer. At the same believer, the Jewish people, all those who believe in divine revelation, those who believe in the books, they are the believers. But the other meaning of mu'min is the one who is provider of peace and shelter. He is known to be mu'min from Aman, who provides shelter and peace to others. And the city of Mecca is known as Al-Baladul Amin, again from Aman and Iman, that the city of peace, sanctuary of peace, where there can be no acts of mischief and terrorism or killings are permitted. Again, Almighty Allah's beautiful names, one of them is Al-Mu'min, because He is providers of safety and shelter to His people, to His creature. That's why He is also known as Mu'min. And the same explanation was done by Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and he said, Al-Mu'minu, it is reported by An-Nasai and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Holy Prophet was asked and he replied about who is Mu'min, who is the faithful person. He said, Al-Mu'minu man aminahu nasu ala dima'ihim wa amwalihim. The true believer according to Islam and according to the Prophet of Islam is someone whom people trust with regard to their lives and their properties. Only that person is to be considered a mu'min. Again, Holy Prophet repeated the words, and he said, Al-mu'minu man aminahu nasu ala anfusihim wa amwalihim. Mu'min is a person the people trust with regard to their lives and properties and honor and everything. Only that person is liable or entitled to be called as mu'min. So those people who have become dangerous for human beings their lives, their blood, their honor, their property. And those persons who are endangering their peaceful life, according to Prophet of Islam, they are neither Muslims nor Mu'mins. The third term, the highest rank of Islam, is ihsan. And then there is no other part of any teachings which can be considered in the ambit of the totality of deen. That is ihsan, the highest rank of deen. And ihsan is also, its root word is hasana, yahsunu. And husn, beauty. Its mean is beauty, betterment, benevolence, piety, kindness, goodness, and nicety. This is the root meanings of the word ihsan. And Holy Prophet and Quran says, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. And also talk to common people, not only for Muslims. This is Quranic word. Talk linnas, to common people, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, in a very kind and a polite and a nice manner. This is the teaching to be a muhsin. And Holy Prophet is again in Quran, يَدْرَؤُونَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ السَّيِّئَةِ. And the mu'min and muhsin are those people who do continue eliminating evil and wrong through means of good. So the Muslim and mu'min and muhsin, all these people are those who retaliate evil with good and who reject the vice with virtue and who replace torture with tolerance and who replace the cruelty with forgiveness. And those people who commit an act of violence, act of militancy, any kind of act endangering the life of human beings, or commit the acts of killings, massacre, acts of terrorism, acts of radicalism, and destroying the properties of the people, irrespective of their faith and their culture, they are neither Muslims nor mu'mins nor Muslims according to Quran and Sunnah of Holy Prophet. And the recommendation of Holy Prophet of Islam is, Holy Prophet said, Hurrima alan nar kullu hayyinin sahlin qareebin minan nas. Every mild and kind and soft-tempered and well-mannered individual is close, and the one who is close to the people with his act of generosity and righteousness, he is declared to be that hell of fire is forbidden on him. And Holy Prophet one day declared to Aisha, his wife, and said, Inna Allah rafiqun yuhibbur rifqa fil amri kulli wa yu'ti ala rifqi ma la yu'ti ala al-unf. O Aisha is kind and he loves, Almighty Allah is kind and he loves kindness and mildness and generosity and forgiveness and softness in every affair, and he bestows on kindness what he does not bestow and on harshness in any matter. So this is a preliminary introduction about what Islam is. So claim does not entitles a person to become a Muslim unless his claim is confirmed with his practice. This is the confirmation that if anybody claims to be on Islam, on Iman or Ihsan, so he has to confirm these claims and slogans practically with these aspects of teachings which Holy Prophet ﷺ have declared clearly. Now, next important aspect which we have to take, Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, once stated about his ummah, and he said that tazharul fitan wa yaksarul harj. He is talking of the last centuries of his ummah, referring to the present time in which we are living now. He said, قالوا يا رسول الله أيما هو قال القتل القتل. This hadith has been related by Abu Huraira, a famous companion, and reported by Imam Bukhari in Muslim and Sahih Muslim, muttafaq alayh. Holy Prophet said the time would draw nearer, and then he said that on the surface of earth disruptions, mischief will rise and haraj will arise, and it will appear in abundance. people submitted to Holy Prophet or Messenger of Allah, what is haraj? This was a specific term. Holy Prophet said, keep in your mind that time the haraj would be killing and mass killing of the people. And the people committing this act, the killings and mass killings of the people, they will go outside from the ambit of my deen. This was a clear-cut reference and categorical reference to the act of terrorism. Again, I am quoting second hadith in relation to the meanings of Islam. This hadith is also mentioned in Sunan Abi Dawood, one of the authentic hadith books of the 6 books after Bukhari, Muslim, and reported by Abdullah bin Umar, a great companion. He says that we were sitting around Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fazakar al-fitan. I will just, with pardon, I will just, if you permit me, sometimes to quote some Arabic words, because I know this talk is going to be delivered to the Arab world also. And I don't want to address only the English youth. I want to address the Arabic youth and to all parts of the world, so that everybody be understand. But these are not only my sentiments. I am not saying something as an innovation. I am quoting each and everything from the Quranic terms and from the hadith and sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, so that the message clearly goes to every part of the world. I think you will allow me to quote this, because this would be the substantiation of the subject what we are saying here. Holy Prophet said, Fazakar al-fitan. Holy Prophet mentioned disruptions. And he said, فَأَكْسَرَ فِي ذِكْرِهَا حَتَّى ذَكَرَ فِتْنَةَ الْأَحْلَاسِ فَقَالَ قَائِلٌ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَمَا فِتْنَةُ الْأَحْلَاسِ قَالَ هِيَ هَرَبٌ وَحَرْبٌ. This is hadith of Sunan Abi Dawood. Hadith number is 4242. Umar reports, Abdullah bin Umar, we were once sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he described disruptions. And when he described disruptions at length, he mentioned the disruption of ahlas, a specific term he used, disruption, fitna of ahlas. So people asked, Ya Rasulullah, what would be the fitna of ahlas in later centuries and later times of your ummah, in this mankind? What would be the fitna of ahlas? He said, it is a chaos, it would be anarchy, it would be violence, it would be militancy, it would be killing and terrorism. I am quoting the numbers of hadith from authentic texts of the hadith of Holy Prophet ﷺ, which were delivered 15 centuries before our time. Nothing which I will deliver today is an innovated thing or just an ijtihad, which I have derived just directly as an interpretation. I am quoting the texts of Holy Prophet. If anybody believes in the text of the traditions of Holy Prophet, if anybody claims to be a believer of the text of Quran, he should go and study all these texts and references and find it out through this fatwa. If anything has been quoted wrongly, or if anything has been interpreted wrongly, and if whatever I will quote today is correct in its text as well as in its interpretation and explanation, then they have to rethink 100 times that the track which they have adopted or the line which they have been pushed by brainwashing, whether they are going to paradise or they are going to have a deal of hellfire. So this was what Holy Prophet ﷺ declared, that would be the violence and mass killing would be the greatest disruption in the history of last time. Next very important aspect of this edict is, many scholars I know, they have already condemned that act of terrorism. This is not a new act of condemnation. It has been condemned. But there would be two main differences between those condemnations and the condemnation which this fatwa contains with. Number one, either some people condemn it with ifs and buts. Whenever the word but is attached to the condemnation, it means you are going to create some exceptional and exemptional clauses. Then this condemnation of extremism or terrorism is regarded to a specific situation for a specific persons. So most of condemnation lack absolute and comprehensive and unconditional and unqualified condemnation was lacking, except a few. One thing. This was a need of time, that an absolute and unconditional and unqualified and a total condemnation should come up from the Muslim world on the word terrorism, on act of militancy, terrorism, without giving any exception to any kind of excuse, any reason, playing with pretext and playing with ifs and buts. Without ifs and buts, one should declare this was the need of the time, that the Muslim Ummah should stand up against the enemies of Islam. Against the enemies of Islam, I mean enemies of humanity. The terrorists are the biggest enemies of Islam. Someone should stand up, and the group of scholars should stand up to condemn it absolutely, to declare that terrorism is terrorism, and no good intention can provide any justification to act of terrorism. No pretext, no discussion of foreign policy of certain country, no occupation, no involvement of a country in a warfare. These things cannot provide any kind of justification to a group of individuals, to an organization, to a certain set of people, that this provides them an authority to take up the arms and create terrorism and to kill the people, civilian people, those who have nothing to do with the killings. So this was the need of the time, someone should come up. So this fatwa is declaring the absolute condemnation, because I have put a chapter here that no good intention, even 1,000 good intentions together, cannot justify a wrong and forbidden act, and these good intentions cannot convert a wrong into good. They cannot convert an evil into good. Terrorism is terrorism. Violence is violence. It has no place in Islamic teachings, and no justification can be provided to it on the basis of any kind of excuses or ifs or buts. And the second major thing is that mostly the scholars have gone up to the limit of that this is a forbidden act. They condemn and declare that terrorism is a forbidden act. The second unique character, and I take responsibility because I have declared it, I have stated this is not only a forbidden act, this is an act of disbelief. The terrorists, on the basis of Quranic references and the traditions of Holy Prophet, they go out of the ambit of Islam. They go out of the Ummah of Holy Prophet. They are not only committing a forbidden act, an act of haram, they are committing an act of kufr. This is, maybe some people may think this is a very new thing, that the people used to say this is haram, this is forbidden, this is against Islam, this is un-Islamic. To say this is un-Islamic is something different. And to say this is an act of kufr, the terrorists go out of the ambit of Islam. And reason is that Almighty Allah and Holy Prophet of Islam has declared them to be out of his ummah and out of the ambit of Islam. This is my second unique aspect of this edict. They can't claim that their suicide bombings are martyrdom operations. They are becoming the heroes of Muslim Ummah. No, they are becoming the heroes of hellfire. They are leading towards hellfire. There is no place of any martyrdom, and their act is never ever to be considered a jihad. Not a single person, maybe Usama or anybody else, maybe leader of any Al-Qaeda or any Taliban or anybody else, not a single person, not a group of individuals, not an organization, according to the classical teachings of Quran and Sunnah, has an authority to declare its activities as jihad. This would be a wrong application of word jihad. So coming to this aspect, that why these acts of terrorism and terrorists, the committer of the mass killings of humankind, how they are committing an act of kufr. And the Muslim Ummah should stand up And this is a religious duty of the scholars and the imams and the religious leaders to convey this message to the young people and to the youth, that this is an act of kufr. They are neither serving Islam, they are neither defending any kind of Islamic interest, and they are not fighting against any other forces. They are fighting against Islam and bringing a bad name to Muslim Ummah and the deen of Holy Prophet, which is the deen of mankind, deen of mercy, deen of love, deen of compassion, and deen of benefit for the whole mankind. So the first, I would like to quote some references, if you allow me, from Quran to establish this point of view, that why I have declared the terrorists and the act of terrorism as kufr. This is something, somebody may say that I have gone beyond those limits which normally the scholars have been going to up to that extent. So I am quoting from Quran. The first of all, we have to keep in our mind that the famous verse of Quran, Man qatala nafsan bighayri nafsin aw fasadin fil ard faka'annama qatala an-nasa jamiyya. One of the greatest authority of Islamic theology in the Islamic history. There are two great imams of Islamic authority. No third person is known to be higher than them in the whole of Islamic history. One is Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, and the second is Imam Abul Mansur al-Maturidi. They are one and the same. There are very minor exegetical differences within their own things, not regarding on this subject. So I'm quoting, interpreting this particular verse of Quran, which means if anybody kills any person, and let me make it clear, somebody again make an excuse of killing of innocent person is bad. Killing of innocent person is prohibited. Still leaving a big confusion of interpreting the meaning of innocent. Who is an innocent? Who is going to decide the innocent? When they say innocent person, then they keep some spaces for other people. This is innocent and this is not, and this is an innocent, this is not. So let me make it clear according to Islamic law, as a humble student of Islamic law and Islamic jurisprudence. By innocent person, the word of Quran is bighayri nafsin. Man qatala nafsan bighayri nafsin. No word innocent has been used in Quran. The word innocent is not used in Quran, neither in Quran nor in Sunnah of Holy Prophet. The word used in the text is man qatala nafsan bighayri nafsin. It is very clear and explicit in its meaning. And bighayri nafsin means anybody who kills a person. And please keep in your mind, this ayat is not confined to Muslim, killing of a Muslim. The word nafsan has been used. Any human being, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, equal. Anybody who kills a person, Muslim or non-Muslim, bighayri nafsin, without any lawful right, which is without through a due course of law, due course of court. What is the lawful due course of court? If anybody kills a person who was not an intentional murder of a person, so that he was liable to, according to Islamic penal law, he was liable to death punishment to be executed by the court. This is what is mean bighayri nafsin. Only an intentional murder, according to Islamic penal law, his punishment, he is liable to capital punishment, one. Number two, any terrorist, the mass killer, the person who commits mass killing of mankind, he is liable to death punishment. And number three, any rebel, if he kills the person during the process of rebellions, if he kills also, he is a person who is liable to capital punishment. Only there are three exceptions. You can read, anybody, I am inviting the scholars, they can take up 100 tafsirs, the exegetical documents on this Quranic verse. Nobody would found any other interpretation which I have mentioned other than that. Only three persons. If anybody is an intentional murder, then he is liable to death. But nobody can kill him, only if the court holds it And he has to, the execution of the punishment should be done just through court and a normal procedure of law. Even the heirs of the killed person has no right to kill anybody directly. Nobody can take law in his hands. Or if he is a rebel, in process of his rebellion, he has killed many people. Or if he is terrorist, he is killing mankind, a group of people. So only these three persons, they will be taken to the court of law. Court will examine after the evidences. When court gives the degree, he is liable to the execution of the capital punishment. So through court, the punishment would be executed. These three categories are known as بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. No other person belonging to any society, any civilian, maybe civil servant, maybe lady, any woman, maybe any priest, maybe any scholar, maybe any common person belonging to market, no other person in the earth can be killed. So this verse is very clear. The word بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ, the word innocent should not be misinterpreted by some people. Innocent word does not create any room for acts of terrorism on certain people. So Quran says that he is like, and as if, and the other word is fasadin fil ard, and he has created disruption, and disruption is the terrorism. He has created rebellion or terrorism, fasad fil ard, a disruption on the earth, which has endangered the peaceful life of the society through his acts. So he has actually killed the whole of mankind. This is Quranic text. Even if he killed a single person, although he has killed the whole of mankind through this terroristic act. So, interpreting this Quranic verse, Imam Abul Mansur al-Maturidi, he says, I am quoting the particular reference, his tafsir, Ta'wilatu Ahli Sunnah, a great compendium of tafsir, volume 3, page 501, exegesis and interpretation of this particular verse. How I am declare the terrorists, they are out of the ambit of Islam. An act of terrorism is not only haram, it is kufr. And the people are pushing youth by their brainwashing towards kufr, which leads them to hellfire. So they say, Man istahalla qatla nafsin harram Allahu qatlaha bighayri haq. فَكَأَنَّمَا اسْتَحَلَّ قَتْلَ النَّاسِ جَمِيعًا لِأَنَّهُ يَكْفُرُ بِإِسْتِحْلَالِهِ قَتْلَ نَفْسٍ. I would try to explain there are two different things. One is an act of killing. Just an act of killing does not make any person disbeliever. Act of killing is an act forbidden. It is a haram act. This act will lead him to fire, hellfire. Act of killing, one thing. Maybe he kills somebody out of his anger, out of retaliation, out of his worldly benefits and his greed to loot anything, like a robber or like a thief and other rebellions. There can be many reasons. Maybe he is revenging somebody who has killed his relative. So all these retributional and these all kind of killings, these killings do not lead him to kufr. This is haram. Now the second thing is istihlalu qatlin nas. The first was qatlun nas, and the second is istihlalul qatl. This is the second jurisprudential reason which makes him to the reason of kufr, that not only does he kill the persons, people, but he considers their killing lawful because of a certain ideology which he has in his mind, which he wrongly has been taught. This is the act which was being committed by the Kharijites. I will come to that subject. Since he not only kills the people through his suicide bombing, through other acts of terrorism, he considers killing of them to be lawful according to his own fabricated, self-concocted, self-adopted ideology. He thinks these are kufr. He thinks this democracy is kufr, which is not. Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself laid down the foundational principles of democracy in the Islamic state of Medina through the constitution, which is known as Misaqul Medina. He entered into a political alliance with Jews and Christians and their tribes. And he was the one who declared the Charter of Human Rights for the mankind. He was the one who declared the guarantee for the rights of the non-Muslims and the respect for their local laws and customary laws and freedom of their religion and freedom of their culture and everything. This is what the deen which Holy Prophet Muhammad presented it to the mankind. And now youngsters, people living here, if they say all these democratic Western governments are kufr, and the Muslim governments and of the Islamic world who are practicing democracy, right or wrong, they have a democratic right to criticize. But this is not pure and honest democracy. There are corruption, there are right. You have right, but you have a full right given by Islam for peaceful discussions. Go enter into the political process. Go in the process of vote. Go to the court. Act through parliament. Raise your voice through a peaceful, democratic, constitutional means. All these ways have been mentioned in hadith. You have rights, but peaceful rights. Go for protest in a peaceful manner. But leaving the peaceful ways away, taking up the arms and declaring democracy as kufr, it means you are rejecting the traditions of Holy Prophet. Holy Prophet said, Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu and Abu Dhar, he reports, Isnani khayru min wahidin, wa salasatun khayru min isnain, wa arbatun khayru min salas, wa yadullahi alal jama'ah. Holy Prophet said, the opinion of two is better than opinion of one. The opinion of three is better than two. Opinion of four is better than that of three. And then he said, this majority is known as jama'ah, and Allah places the hand of protection on jama'ah. This is the hadith which provides the actual basis of democracy in this world. So when you say absolutely democracy is kufr, you don't know what our own Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has been preaching. So this is a specific ideology. We want to establish a worldwide khilafah. I am 59 now. Throughout my life, alhamdulillah, I have read throughout my life the Quran, hundreds of Quranic exegesis, tafsir, hundreds. I am an author of 100 books of hadith. Just I have authored on hadith only 100 books, tafsir 100 books, on law. So throughout my life, I have been a humble student. I have been reading whatever in my life. I have not gone through a single commandment of Quran and a single commandment of hadith of Holy Prophet where he has stated that the Muslim Ummah is bound to establish one Khalifa for the whole world. I have been listening this nonsense for the last 20 years. When I used to, in the beginning when I used to come here, there were youngsters who used to shout Khilafah and Khilafah. I don't want to name anybody. And their leaders, they have been meeting with me. I'm repeating my sentence with authority on the grace of Almighty Allah. I am a very, very humble student of Islam. That I have not gone through a single evidence of Quran and Sunnah. I know the Khilafah hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. I know everything. Everything is, I have written books on those. I have not gone through a single statement of Holy Prophet or Quran where Holy Prophet said that my Ummah is under an obligation to establish just one Khilafah for the whole world. And there can't be two Khalifas. They don't understand even the meaning of Khalifa. Just head of the state is known as Khalifa. Whether he is president in a presidential form or he is a prime minister in a parliamentary form. Whether this is a federal form of government, it is a unitary form of government, or it is a confederation form of government. Any government which practices according to the democratic principles of Islamic justice and social justice and political justice and human rights according to the teachings of Quran and Sunnah. You may say it parliamentary government. In the olden days they used to say Khalifa or Khilafah. Khilafah is nothing else. All governments today in Arabic term, they can say we are Khilafah if they are working in the light of those true Islamic principles. And Islamic principles are the administrative justice, judicial justice, social justice, political justice, economic justice, human rights, freedom and liberty. All these things are to be enforced. So this is Islamic government. So there's there'll be one Khalifa and you have to fight all other governments. This is nonsense and ignorance, illiteracy. So these are ideologies. When you create, and particularly to say that the rulers and the governments of Muslim world, maybe it's Pakistan or some other, they are not practicing Islam properly. They are not enforcing the laws of Islam. So quoting wrongly the verses, "Man lam yahkum bima anzalallah fa ulaika humul kafirun. Wa man lam yahkum bima anzalallah fa ulaika humuz zalimun. Wa man lam yahkum bima anzalallah fa ulaika humul fasiqun." This would be wrong interpretation of Quranic verse. They are not jurisprudential specialists. By quoting wrong things, this is what Kharijites used to do in early periods. They say we have a right to fight against them, and this fighting is jihad. This is known as ideology. So because prompted by any specific self-concocted ideology to consider other people kufr and kafir, then take up the arms and fighting against them and killing them. This is the whole phenomenon which is being done. So they say, since because of this ideology, there is a difference between common murderer and the terrorists. A common murderer kills the people, but according to theology, he does not consider that his killing is lawful. He may consider that I am doing wrong, but I am doing out of my revenge. Maybe I don't get the proper justice from the court, so I should kill him. A man, he is not in a proper senses. There can be many reasons. Biological reasons, psychological reasons, sociological reasons, ecological reasons, psychiatric reasons of killing, and all this criminality. The science of criminality tells each and everything to us. So a common murderer does not have any religious ideology in his mind. He kills for other social, political, personal reasons. And the difference which lies between a murderer and terrorist is that when terrorists take up the arms, they take up on behalf of a specific ideology. That we are fighting against kufr. So Aimma says, because of this ideology, since they consider this killing lawful, so considering lawfulness of the killing of mankind, this makes them kafir. They take them out of the ambit of Islam. This is authority of the Imam, the greatest Imam of Islamic history, Imam Ash'ari and Abul Mansur al-Maturidi, quoting Mansur. And then he says, لِأَنَّ Man kafara bi'ayatin, this is for the Arab world and my dear Muslim youth. Man kafara bi'ayatin min kitabillah yasiru kafiran bilkul. Since he has committed, he has rejected one commandment of Quran, so he has rejected the whole of Quran. In the same way, then he says that هذه الآية يدل بالحكم في أهل الكفر وأهل الإسلام جميعا, and this is equal for the Muslims and non-Muslims. Again, the second Quranic verse comes for الذين يحاربون الله ورسوله ويسعون في الأرض فسادا. Quoting this Quranic verse, the scholars like Imam Hassan al-Basri, Imam Qatada the Tabi'een, and Mujahid, and many other Aimma and Tabi'een, they have reported this, that this leads to the act of kufr. Then Holy Prophet himself stated to the Ummah, reported by Imam Bukhari, related by Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, لا ترتدوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض. Don't become non-believers. Don't reject my deen, don't become non-believers. Don't go out of the ambit of Iman because of killing one another. So Holy Prophet, this was the last sermon of Holy Prophet, reported in Sahih Bukhari, Kitabul Fitan, and many other books of hadith too. I'm quoting Bukhari Muslim. That he stated, يَضْرِبُ بَعْضُهُمْ رِقَابَ بَعْضٍ. In this human killings, this act will take you to the kufr. And again, next authority on the same, suicide bombings, blowing up the people with your suicide bombs, blowing up the people and burning them. Again, this ayah of Holy Quran comes in Surah Al-Buruj, verse number 10. Stated, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ فَتَنُوا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَتُوبُوا فَلَهُمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابُ الْحَرِيقِ. This is where the suicide bombing comes in Quran. To blowing up the people, maybe any form. And the prevalent form today is the suicide bombing, where you blow up yourself and you blow up other people. Quran says, Fatanul Mu'mineen, this is harrakuhum bin nar, to blow up the people with your fire or your bombs. Of course, when Quran says 1500 years before, he won't use the word bomb. Bomb were not available in those days. He used the general term to blow up the people and to kill them by blowing up them. It is reported by Abdullah ibn Abbas that it means that to blow up the people with anything which fires and burns them. And Abd bin Humayd and Ibn al-Munzir reports from Qatada the follower of companion, a great muhaddis, he said, Harraku, this is blowing up the people. Again, Hazrat Qadada says, and Imam Qurtubi and Abu Hafs al-Hanbali reports the same. And Imam Fakhruddin Razi reports in At-Tafsir-ul-Kabir. He says, Ala inna azab jahannam huwa al-azabul hasil bisababi kufrihim. This azabul jahannam, the hellfire, this is because of their kufr, because they blow up the people. So they commit the act of kufr. Wa azabul hariq huwa al-azabul zaid ala azabil kufr bisababi annahum ahrakul mu'minin. And they are doing here in the Western world, and they are doing the same in Pakistan. They are doing the same maybe in other Somalia and many other countries. Wherever they are blowing the humanity, or they are blowing the Muslims. So this act of ihraq, blowing them up. And this is the best word used in Quran for suicide bombings. He said this is an act of kufr, and they will get double punishments as compared to other people. And again, Sahibul Jalalain, Imam Suyuti, he also says the same word, al-ihraq. Afatanu, it has been translated by al-ihraq. And then again, Imam Fakhruddin Razi, the great mufassir, classical, he says, Kullu man fa'ala zalik. Somebody may say that this was for Ashabul Ukhdud, Imam, a specific nation, but Imam Fakhruddin Razi says, Kullu man fa'ala zalik. وَهَذَا أَوْلَى لِأَنَّ اللَّفْزَ عَامٌ وَالْحُكْمُ عَامٌ فَالتَّخْصِيصُ تَرْكٌ لِلظَّاهِرِ مِنْ غَيْرِ دَلِيلٍ. He says that this cannot be specified only to the old nations of the Ashabul Ukhdud. The world is common, so its commandment and meanings would be common. Every person, even today, if he blows up the people, he would also become kafir with suicide bombings. So this was the second aspect, and now very significant aspect, very important aspect of this edict, I would say. The terrorists of today are Khawarij, they are Kharijites. Holy Prophet ﷺ mentioned in more than 100 traditions. They are Kharijites. I hope you have heard the name Kharijite, and maybe some of you, they haven't heard. Kharijite were the people, the first group of terrorists in the history of Islam who took up the arms. They were with the last Orthodox Caliph of Islam, Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. When a situation arrived that he decided for dialogue, conversation, and a peaceful settlement of dispute through dialogue. This is very significant, which shows light on the mentality of terrorism. When he decided that we will decide the matter peacefully, we want peaceful settlement of the dispute, and we want by an arbitration, and we want through the dialogue. When they heard of dialogue, peaceful settlement of dispute, and arbitration, they came out of the army, and they were the first person who took arms against Sayyidina Ali, the fourth Islamic Orthodox Caliph. And they said, we don't accept dialogue. Now, I'm giving you a historical picture so that you may apply it on the present day terrorists. We don't accept peaceful settlement. We don't accept settlement through dialogue. We accept settlement through sword. So some people think that Islam has been emphasizing the sword. It would be absolutely wrong. My dear and respected audience and the journalists and the leaders of the community, I would say a wrong image has been presented about Islam in the Western world. The reason is that media is always interested in news. And peaceful people never create news. This is the first time I would congratulate you that a declaration of peace has created a news. Throughout the history, media is always looking for news, and a terrorist creates news which peaceful person cannot do. So that's why they were always being propagated and promoted. And the picture which Western world got about Islam and Islamic Ummah and community, that was because of the terrorist people and the people shouting here on the roads and saying, we will hit America and we will hit Britain and we will do this and that. The silly people So these were the news which have been always promoted, and they are very few people, but they are armed. Single armed person is powerful than 100 unarmed persons. They are not even 1% of the ummah, but unfortunately they have the power of nuisance. Holy Prophet ﷺ, they are continuity of Kharijite. So they came first group of terrorists who became terrorists. They took up the arms and rejected the method of peaceful settlement of dispute with dialogue. They said, we believe in settlement with sword and gun. They became Khawarij. And it would be interesting to know that Holy Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned more than 100 times in ahadith about these terrorist people. And I have written a full-fledged book on this, and the Khawarij terrorists, a separate book other than this fatwa. And I have collected 100 ahadith in my book, separate book. It was done many years before. So what happened? Holy Prophet ﷺ mentioned. And second, maybe misunderstanding I want to remove today. Some people, the Muslims, may think that the Kharijites were only historically a specific group who retaliated against the fourth orthodox caliphs of Islam, Sayyidina Ali, and who fought against them and they were killed. Only that particular terrorist group of that time was Kharijite. And Kharijite, today's terrorists or the people doing the terroristic activities afterward, they are not Kharijites. This concept would be totally wrong against the traditions of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have to establish this very significant point. My theme is, main theme of the fatwa is that the terrorists of today are the Kharijites. And these people, they are the same old evil. They have come up with a new name. But I would say, even people don't know this name is new or not. They have used the same name, and they have used benefit of the ignorance of the people of Arabic and Islamic roots. Two names have been used. For example, any word which is At-Tahrir or this kind of word, you understand? At-Tahrir, this kind of word. It comes out from Al-Harura. It is not lexically linked, but sound-wise, it is linked with Al-Harura. Tahrir has a different root. Al-Harura is a different root, but the sound-wise, it has a link. The first terrorist group, they established their center for terrorism in a village known as Harura. And the word Tahrir has a very closer link with the word Harura. Harura and Tahrir. And Holy Prophet mentioned the word Haruriya in Hadith. Haruriya would be the first terrorist group which will come out against this ummah. First terrorist group. Second important word, Al-Qaeda. I won't say this is a new world in the old evil. I will say this is a tactically adopted the same word. I have quoted a full chapter on this subject. Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani and Digar Aimma and authorities have noted various groups of Kharijites. Imam Asqalani in Fatwa al-Bari and other Aimma, they say there was a group of Kharijites known as Al-Qadiyya. The same word, Al-Qadiyya. And Al-Qadiyya means the think tank of the terrorists. Al-Qadiyya, sitting behind, not actively participating in the terroristic acts, but providing them support, appreciating them, providing them mental, moral, religious support, and appreciating their activities, but not practically involving in the terroristic activities. Though who are the well-wishers and who are supporters, and provide them, back up them, they were known to be Al-Qadiyya. Our every book of Islamic history possesses this name. So what is the difference between Al-Qadiyya and Al-Qaeda? Just the letter Alif has been added. So this is a Kharijite movement, the terroristic movement. And number three, some people may say that that was an historic subject. It is not an old subject. Holy Prophet said that this movement will continue till the day of judgment. The Kharijites, Holy Prophet said they will come in my ummah in the history. At least more than 20 times they will emerge. And if we consider that the Kharijites were only those who fought against Sayyidina Ali, the fourth Orthodox Caliph, 1400 years before, so that would be wrong according to the tradition of Holy Prophet. He said that was the first founding group of terrorists, Kharijite. And Holy Prophet said they will keep on emerging, coming up again and again. In the all centuries, and more, they will emerge more than 20 times in the history. And the last group of Kharijite terrorists will be the part of the army of Antichrist, the Dajjal. They would be the soldiers of Antichrist. They will fight with him, and they will again commit the act of terrorism with the Dajjal also. So they have to come till the Antichrist appears. So Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, gave specific signs. I'm just quoting the words of Hadith, so that I will leave the decision up to you to whether these signs are available in the terrorists of this time or not. The first thing Holy Prophet stated, they would be ahdasul asnan. They will be youth and they will be young in age. First of all, they will be young in age. Holy Prophet is mentioning these prophecies 15 centuries before. Whenever they will rise and emerge, they will be youth. Majority of them, youth will be deployed for terroristic activities. The word ahdasul asnan. Holy Prophet says, "Sayakhruju qawmun fi akhir az-zamani ahdathul asnan." This is in Sahih Bukhari, and this is in Sahih Muslim, and Ahmad bin Hanbal, and Nasai, and Ibn Majah, and all books of Hadith. They will be young in age. They will be deployed for that. And they will come in the last time of the first century, and then other Hadith tells us the last time of the whole history too. Second thing, Sufaha'ul Ahlam. They will be brainwashed. This amazingly, when Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, is telling all these, disclosing these realities 14 centuries before. They would be deployed and then they will be brainwashed. What is the brainwashing? That if you are losing your life, you are getting shahada. And by suicide bombing, you are doing jihad. You are going direct to Jannah, to paradise. This is how they are being brainwashed. And they don't have the knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. Brainwashing is the easiest factor for any religious boy. He may belong to any religion. He may belong to Jewish religion. He may belong to Christian religion. He may belong to Hindu religion. He may belong to Islamic religion. We see brainwashed people working in India. And everywhere, those who fight against humanity and just commit the acts of, and burn out the mosques and the temples and things. Holy Prophet said, from the Ummah they will be brainwashed and they will be young in age. This word brainwashed, Sufaha'ul Ahlam, comes in Sahih Bukhari, and I quote, Hadith number is 6531. Again in Sahih Muslim, Hadith number is 1066. Ahmad bin Hanbal, Hadith number is 616, and Hadith number 912, 1086. And Nasai, Hadith number is 4102, and many other books of Hadith. So they would be young in age and brainwashed. Two things. Then Holy Prophet said, their leaders, those who will brainwash them, those who will misguide them, and those who will be their teachers to take them to this wrong track, they would be kathul lihya. They will be having bulky beards. I'm sorry to say. You can go and find on your own. They will having bulky beards. Why Holy Prophet ﷺ is mentioned such minute marks of identification, so that my ummah and the mankind, they may not be misguided. They should be easy. It would be very easy for them to identify who these people are. What does it mean, the bulky beard? That they will be over-expressive and very strict and particular in external practices of deen. They will not be very close to the spiritual aspect of deen. The whole emphasis would be on the externality, exposure. And the fourth would be mushammirul izar. They will be lifting their trousers above their knees. You can go and you can find. This is not a hidden secret. They would be very particular in this thing. All these two things mean that they will look much zealous, extremist, and very strict and particular about the external aspects of the practices, and not towards the internal, not towards the kindness. Holy Prophet said they will practice look at their religiosity, and on the other hand, their hearts would be the hearts of tigers, the wild beasts. This would be their position of their hearts, empty of mercy, empty of love, empty of kindness, empty of mildness, empty of compassion. Apparently, they will look very big preachers and very big practicing people of deen. But their emphasis would be on these things. And number third, يَخْرُجُ نَاسٌ مِّن قِبَلِ الْمَشْرِقِ. Though the third thing which I have mentioned, again, comes in Bukhari and Sahih Muslim both. I am quoting everything from the highest authorities of Islamic traditions, hadith of Holy Prophet. Bukhari and Muslim, the highest authorities. Muttafaq alayh. Nobody in the world claiming to be a Muslim can reject these authorities. After Quran, these are the highest authorities, Bukhari and Muslim. And there are dozens of hadiths on this subject, which I am quoting these signs. The fifth sign Holy Prophet mentioned, يَخْرُجُ نَاسٌ مِّن قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ. Most of them will appear from the eastern part of the world. Although he was standing in Medina, he was pointed out towards east. The first Khawarij group at that time from Medina was on the east side. This is its specific application. But coming to the generality, eastern part always said, Ha huna al-fitnatu ha huna wa ashara ila al-mashriq, from the eastern part. The one way or the other they will belong to the eastern part. Sixth thing is, Holy Prophet said, La yazaluna yakhrujuna hatta yakhruja akhirum mal masihid dajjal. They will keep on coming. These terrorists will not appear only in the Orthodox period. They will keep on coming in the 15 centuries throughout the history. From time to time, from century to century, they will keep on coming and emerging again and again. And Holy Prophet comes in Ibn Majah and Nasai and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal's Musnad. Once he mentioned more than 10 times. And at second time he mentions they will appear more than 20 times in the history. And the last group and generation of the terrorists, these Khawarij, they will rise along with the Antichrist. So this hadith connotes that they will keep appearing in every era of the human history. Then Holy Prophet said, يَتَأَمَّقُونَ وَيَتَشَدَّدُونَ فِي الدِّينِ. Don't get deceived from their apparent religiosity, because they will deceive the believers because of their appearance. They will appear most religious, but they will narrow-minded, and their interpretation would be very narrow, and they will be very hardliners and extremists in matters of deen. Worlds of hadith are يَتَأَمَّقُونَ وَيَتَشَدَّدُونَ فِي الدِّينِ. They would be mutashaddid, extremist in the matters of deen. They won't be moderate. They won't be liberal. They would be mutashaddid. Mutashaddid means militant, tashaddud, and in deen they would be very extremist in deen. And so much so he said to his companions, يَحْكِرُ أَحَدُكُمْ صَلَاتَهُ مَا صَلَاتِهِمْ وَصِيَامَهُ مَا صِيَامِهِمْ. They would be practicing Muslims apparently. If you see their praying and their fasting and their religious practices, you will consider your religious practices inferior to those. They would be so strict in religious practice. They would be reciting Quran, they would be quoting Quran, but Holy Prophet said, Quran will never grow under their throat, from their throat. They were hypocrites. And then Quran says they will quote references of Quran and they will recite Quran. يَقْرَؤُونَ الْقُرْآنَ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُ لَهُمْ وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِمْ. They will quote Quran to the young to brainwash them. But the Quranic verses they will think are in their favor. But Holy Prophet said actually they were against them. The Quranic verses would be against them. Then Holy Prophet said, يَدْعُونَ إِلَىٰ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ وَلَيْسُ مِنْهُ فِي شَيْءٍ. They will invite the people towards Quran, Sunnah, towards Deen. And their first slogan was, "An inil hukmu illa lillah." The first slogan of the terrorists in human history, in Islamic history, they said, we want enforcement of Islamic law. This was their slogan. We want enforcement of Islamic rule. We want the Amir of the Khalifa, the Amir of the Muslim Ummah. And we want to struggle against shirk and bid'ah. Inil hukmu illa lillah. Sayyidina Ali said their slogans, the words are correct and their intentions are wrong. Because of these good words and slogans, appealing slogans, they want to create disruption in the Muslim Ummah. Holy Prophet said, they will invite the people, their apparent call would be towards Quran and Islam. وَلَيْسُ مِنْهُ شَيْءٌ. But be aware of the fact, they had nothing to do, no link, no relationship with Quran. Again, Holy Prophet said, يَقُولُونَ مِنْ قَوْلِ خَيْرِ الْبَرِيَّةِ. Their slogans will be very religious and appealing. Today the slogans, why the young people, the boy, the youth, they became brainwashed. Slogans of these people are appealing. Just the interest of the Muslim Ummah are being crushed. Their lands are being occupied. Very appealing slogans. If anybody, if charged to the British youth, that somebody is occupying the British land, and some people are aggressing the British people, stand up for your own liberation, stand up for your independence, stand up for self-defense, you will be no more in this earth. Very appealing slogans. So this would be their appealing slogans. We are revenging. We are defending the interest of Islam. We are defending the Ummah community of Islam. Holy Prophet said, Min qawli khair al-baliyah. Very appealing words and slogans they would raise. But Holy Prophet ﷺ said that this would be just an hypocrisy. They will just attract the people with their slogans, but their own practice would be against my deen and my sharia. Yusi'un al-fi'l. Their character would be against Islam. They would be cruel. They would be brutal. And they would be devious people. This is Holy Prophet Muhammad. Hum sharrul khalqi wal khaliqa. These terrorists, the Kharijite terrorists, starting from the end of the last century, ending up to the appearance of Antichrist, appearing more than 20 times in the history of mankind, even up to our time too. All these people said they would be the worst of the creatures. Worst of the creatures. And Holy Prophet said, more or less, يَسْفِكُونَ الدَّمَ الْحَرَامِ. Their identification would be that they will shed blood unjustly. They would be the mass killers of the people. They will consider the killing of the people lawful. And then Holy Prophet said, for them, innahum kilabun nar, they would be the dogs of hell. This is Islamic verdict. So I am not giving an innovated, a new verdict. I am just declaring what Holy Prophet ﷺ preached and communicated to the Ummah and to the mankind. This hadith, that these terrorists of Khawarij will be the dogs of hell. This hadith comes in Sunan at-Tirmidhi, and hadith number is 3000. And they would said that they would be the worst if you kill them, worst slain under the sky. And moreover, they will stand up and they will commit armed struggle and rebellion against the Muslim governments also, as well as the common humanity. And they will be against the peaceful dialogue, and they will believe in militancy, tyranny, and they will believe in these kind of activities. So I want to spare rest of the time for question and answers, although there are many other aspects. I have just quoted up till now a brief just of 2 chapters. Just 2 chapters I have concluded, 2 chapters up till now. And this fatwa consists of 11 or 9 chapters. The last thing which I will just want to quote the authorities. This is not Dr. Qadri who has interpreted the Quranic verses and hadith about the kufr and taking them out the ambit of Islam. The authorities of the classical authorities, Imam Bukhari has put them in the bracket of kufr. Number 2, Ibn Jarir Tabari has declared these Khawarijite terrorists with the kufr. Imam Ghazali has the same verdict. Qazi Abu Bakr al-Arabi has the same verdict. Imam Qazi Ijaz al-Maliki Sahibu Shifa gave the same verdict. Imam Qurtubi gave the same verdict. Allama Ibn Taymiyyah gave the same verdict. Imam Taqiyuddin Subki gave the same verdict. Imam Shatibi, Ibn al-Bazzaz, Badruddin Aini, Imam Qustulani, Mullah Ali Qari, Abdul Haq Muhaddis Dehlavi, Abdul Aziz Muhaddis Dehlavi, Ibn Abidin al-Shami, Abdul Rahman Mubarak Puri, all these A'immah give the same authority which I have quoted. And second viewpoint, those who don't declare them kafir, disbeliever, but they agree on killing them. They say this is compulsory and mandatory to terminate them. They are Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shamsuddin Sarakhsi, Hafiz Ibn Hajar Asqalani, and Shaykh Imam Ahmad Raza. They said that it is mandatory on the people to kill them and terminate them. And a last reference, Allama Ibn Taymiyyah is the one who declares that the people in our time, he says, not only those who appeared in the time of Sayyidina Ali, Orthodox caliphs, were Khawarij terrorists. People of our time are also Khawarij terrorists. Allama Ibn Taymiyyah, he says in his book Majmu'ul Fatawa and his book An-Nubuwat, he says since they took up the arms, they take up the arms and fight against the governments and fight against for their ideologies, to enforce the ideology and fight against mankind, and they consider the killing of mankind halal, lawful. That's why the people of today, this kind of people, they are also Khawarij and Kharijite terrorists, and say people, Ibn Taymiyyah's words are, Innahum aksarun nasi la ya'rifunahum. Most of the people, they don't identify, recognize them, unless they take up the arms and start the act of killing and terrorism. Whenever they start the act of terrorism, you should know this is a continuity of Kharijite disruption and Kharijite movement, which has been declared by Holy Prophet. Okay, if whenever you find it, you should terminate it. And Holy Prophet said, there is no place for the extreme terrorist of dialogue with them. You can have dialogue with those people who are behind them, but those are to be eliminated. If you leave them, they will reorganize, they will get the time to reconsolidate them. And because since they are the enemies of, you should finish and eliminate them like the Ad and Samud nations, Almighty Allah finished them. So these were the basic, some features of the whole edict which I have given, some of the brief aspects in front of you. Now I would be pleased to leave remaining time for all of the respected audience and the participant for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have some time for questions, and there are a couple of roving mics. Can I just ask that if you wish to ask a question, you put up your hand, give your name and title or designation, and if you could please stick to the topic to hand, either terrorism. I
beg pardon if I have taken more time, but you can appreciate that how important these aspects are. I have taken only 2-3 aspects, and I have left dozens of aspects just up to you, so that you may read when the whole fatwa translation comes up.
Yeah, could you make your questions brief and to the topic, and refrain from making comments? Gentleman at the back there in the grey suit.
Dr. Qadri, thank you very much indeed. I think all of us here will be very grateful to you for your very clear exposition and your very strong views about suicide bombing and terrorism.
Thank you.
And that is very, very important. But we have a problem in this country with those whose view of Islam, while they themselves speak strongly against terrorism and suicide bombing, have a view of Islam and an approach to Islam that is fundamentalist, narrow, extremist, and very militant. And the outworkings of that Islam is very antisocial and hostile. We think of those, for instance, that come with Wahhabi backgrounds, those with Deobandi background, and so on. And there are major mosques in this country. I'd name, for instance, one, the East London Mosque, where this sort of Islam is very rife. They will speak strongly against suicide bombings and terrorism, but nonetheless they will propagate a very antisocial form of Islam. Do you have anything to add to or say about that form from your own perspective?
Thank you very much for this question. I would just like to say that I am not very well aware of the local institutions of England, various mosques and various people and sects who they are working in which way. I have given the whole verdict in its general, comprehensive and universal form. It can be applicable anywhere. I won't prefer to speak in a specific terms of institutions and mosques and various sects. The Islamic stance is very clear. anybody who promotes this stance of Islam, his viewpoint is Islamic. Any person, may he belong to any sect or any mosque or any center or institution, I don't know, who promotes the militant and violent and extremistic viewpoint about Islam, please keep in your mind, he is not promoting and he is not presenting Islam. This is his own extremistic and terroristic agenda. Please don't bracket terrorism with Islam. Now the case of Islam is very clear. I will have a very sympathetic appeal and a request that if you please detach the word Islamic or Islam from terrorism, it will help in eliminating or demoralizing the terrorist people, because the terrorists are neither Islamic nor Jewish nor Christian. Terrorists have no religion. Unfortunately, they were born in Muslim families, but they have been misguided and detracked. So terrorism should remain terrorism and condemn. You say that Islam condemns terrorism. Islam discusses, says that terrorism is an act of kufr. It is outside the ambit of Islam. It is totally condemnable act. And if you totally disconnect the word Islam or Islamic from the terrorism and then condemn, I hope overwhelming majority of the Muslim Ummah would join their voices with your voice, as I have stated. So there is no Islamic terrorism. There is no Muslim terrorist. Whoever is terrorist, he is a non-Muslim. Whoever commits act of terrorism, he is committing an un-Islamic act, no link with Islam. So those who promote this kind of view, they may have their own political agenda. They have been instigated. They have been prepared for that particular purpose. You have to deal these kind of people with a different way. But I would say, it is clear according to Quran and Sunnah, these kind of people having this terroristic or militant agenda has no link with Islamic teachings.
Thank you. There was a lady at the back there. Do you still want to ask your question? No, okay. Gentleman just over there.
Thank you. My name is Dominic Kishani. I'm from the BBC. Can I ask about a specific situation? There are some scholars who say that the situation between Israel and the Palestinians is an exceptional one, and that the rules you talk about would not necessarily apply. Can you tell me what you would say to a young Palestinian who believes that the only course of action he has open to him is to turn to the suicide bomb?
Thank you very much. I would like to say all of my brothers in Islam and my sons, because of age, whether they belong to Palestine, they belong to Pakistan, they belong to Somalia, they belong to any part of Islamic world. Terrorism is terrorism. We have to create a difference between warfare and terrorism. Terrorism means to kill civilians, those who are not directly fighting against you in a battlefield. When there is a matter of clear-cut warfare, so everybody kills one another. Everybody has a right in the warfare. But killing the people, maybe in the pretext of avenge, whom you consider the certain government or certain people or certain power has committed any cruelty or aggression or any occupation, so you are avenging. And what you are doing through the act of terrorism or suicide bombing, when you commit suicide bombing, the children, they are being killed. The women are being killed. Maybe the Jewish people are doing the same, or the Muslim Palestinian are doing. Either the Pakistani people are doing, or any other people belonging to any community, irrespective. No, when you are doing suicide bombing, so see, Holy Prophet said, even during warfare, in the battlefield, when you are fighting with your enemy, you can't kill. This is a categorical declaration by Holy Prophet and all four Orthodox caliphs, Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman and Ali. You cannot kill, even in the battlefield, the women. You can't kill children. You can't kill old men. You can't kill the priests. You can't kill the people of church. You can't kill the traders. You can't kill the farmers. You can't kill the diplomats. You can't hold them custody. You can't kill the ambassadors. You can't burn the trees. You can't destruct the population. You can't kill the human beings. Those who are non-combatant, not fighting with you, they are busy in their trade, sitting in their houses, they are sleeping. They are going in the train and bus in London in 7/7, or they are working in the Twin Towers in their offices and 9/11. They are busy, they are working in their embassies. So these are people, when you commit suicide bombings, so all these suicide, who are the targets? Targets are the human beings. So irrespective of anything, unexceptionally act of terrorism is terrorism. It cannot be allowed in any pretext.
Thank you very much for your speech and your fatwa. I agree totally with you about Khawarij opinion, and the Khawarij of today are more extreme than the Khawarij of yesterday. But I'm a little bit puzzled of the fatwa of making the terrorist kafir. Because when we talk about Hadd al-Haraba, it's very clear in the Holy Quran that you cut their hands and legs from behind and you throw them outside the city. Also, I'm a little bit puzzled of the non-dialogue system. While the fifth Caliph, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, sat down the Khawarij, 25,000 of them, and he managed through dialogue to convert 20,000 at least of them to the mainstream. It is the dialogue which we still have to deal with.
Yes.
The fatwa of kafir, you mentioned two imams, which I know of Imam al-Ash'ari. Maybe because my lack of knowledge, I don't know how Imam al-Maturidi, al-Maturdi. And I wish that you could have mentioned the opinion of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarding the kufr.
Yes.
The kufr. The kufr. You see, you mentioned Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and others at the end regarding that the terrorists are Khawarij and the Khawarij are terrorists.
Thank you, brother.
Can I finish, please?
You've asked quite a few questions.
No, can I finish, please? Because I'm talking about a serious issue.
No, I understand, but I think there are other people who want to ask questions.
Thank you. Okay. And the last hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the last sermon, لا ترتدوا بعد كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض. It is the act of kufr which lead the Muslim to the non-Muslim to kill one another, not actually the killing which lead them to become kuffar. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you very much. So when we talk of dialogue to bringing them to the right track, it means only the youngsters who have been brainwashed and committing the acts of terrorism and human killing, they are not for dialogue. For dialogue are the main people who are behind them, those who deserve to be discussed. Definitely the room of dialogue is open for them. And the government should try to bring them on right path. That's why this is a dialogue. The fatwa launching ceremony itself is a dialogue. Just to give them the arguments, give them the evidence so that this is the best option to bring them to right path. This is one aspect. We are in favor. We are talking unless, but for the dialogue, the condition is if they are still committing the acts of terrorism, dialogue means they should set down their arms. And they should be peaceful and get ready for dialogue. Then dialogue is always welcomed. One thing. Reference, as far as the Imam, I have quoted, 17 Aimma, including Imam Bukhari, up to Allama Ibn Taymiyyah. Including Allama Ibn Taymiyyah is the highest authority Imam of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal mazhabs. And he declares this act kufr. He takes from Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal has been quoted. Another references which you have asked, I have quoted in my 4th chapter on the concept of rebellion. Either terrorists are declared the Kharijite terrorist or they are declared rebels, al-Bughat or al-Khawarij or al-Bughat. And that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal has declared on all these people, they agree on their killing. They never supported them. There's fatwa of Imam Abu Hanifa. I have given fatwa Imam Malik, fatwa Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Imam Sufyan Sawri, Imam Mawardi, Imam Sarakhsi, Imam Kasani, Marghinani, Imam Ibn Qudama about kufr, Imam Nawawi, and Imam Ibrahim bin Mufli al-Hanbali, and those. And finally, the latest Salafi ulama, Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Bagh, Allama Nasiruddin Albani, and Ibn al-Fawzan. They declared that these today's terrorists are the Khawarij. So there are two different views. One, declare them kafir, I have explained. Majority, the Kharijite terrorist. Other view is that they don't declare them kafir, but they declare that their termination and killing is wajib. It is compulsory on the Muslim governments to terminate them. So no one, not a single scholar in the classical period of Islam is in favor of saving them or protecting them. Everyone is, consensus opinion is that you have to terminate them. Then two, majority says that this act is kufr, and minority of imam says this is rebellion. They deserve the punishment of termination instead of kufr, and I have quoted now the second authorities too. Thank you very much.
We have time for one more question, or perhaps two at most. The gentleman over there had his hand up earlier.
Jazakallah, Imam Khotr. One question that I have is regarding with the Somali issue. And one of the problems in Somalia is that the youngsters out there are made to believe that whatever they're doing, it is for the greater cause to bring the country into Islamic rule. And I listened very well your lecture, but when they are asked why you're killing, for example, young people who are graduating from a faculty of medicine, they're saying all these things are just for the sacrifice to get the country Islamic rule. And they blow themselves out, and they send young kids into that. What do you want to say to the young Somalis who might be lured to this situation?
This is very relevant and significant question. Thank you for that. I would say categorically that even if a certain Muslim government and the rulers are not practicing Islam, they are Muslims, they are not practicing Islam perfectly, they are not enforcing the Islamic laws and commandments perfectly, even they are sinful. Hundreds of classical authorities of Islam, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, even the Ja'fari and Salafi, all sects in the classical era of Islam, they agree on the fact, according to the Holy Prophet's tradition, which comes in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, the chapter of Imara. Holy Prophet ﷺ said that a time will come that there would be very bad Muslim rulers having their governments on Muslim societies, very bad, and worse rulers will come. And so much so that they will curse the people and people will curse them. They will have no mercy and good acts for the population. So companions asked, categorical question which you have asked today, that Ya Rasulullah, if that times come and we see the Muslim rulers in this condition not enforcing properly the Islam and not doing good acts, so are we not, at that time the Muslim would not be allowed to take arms and to fight against them? Holy Prophet ﷺ said, no, you would not be allowed. You can hate them, you can correct them through all other means, but taking up arm against the government, even it is not practicing properly, is not allowed. Because this will amount to an anarchy. Islam has given the ways. Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahy anil Munkar. You can perform your own political party. You can declare your own manifesto. You can participate in the elections. You can go in the peaceful rallies. You can do protests against them. You can go your membership in the parliament. You can go to the court. All possible peaceful, constitutional, democratic ways and means are open for the Muslim world, like the other non-Muslim world. You should adopt, but only single thing is not allowed, to take up the arms and start fighting against your rulers, because this is terrorism, and this is the Kharijite way. Kharijite terrorists use the same slogan. They say, we want complete implementation of Islam. Same thing. And that's why we are killing the people. The same mentality is working now. So only this particular thing is banned. All other peaceful, democratic, constitutional ways are open for people. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is in Bukhari and Muslim hadith.
We have 5 more minutes, and we'll entertain one question here and one at the back.
Shaykh al-Islam, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Majid Nawaz, co-director of Quilliam Foundation.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your presentation. It was wonderful to hear what you've said, and I look forward to reading the book. My question
Inshallah.
is that in Pakistan...
It is coming in Arabic also.
Thank
Inshallah.
you. Inshallah. Many people here in the UK, in our work, they ask us why more ulama have not come out and spoken as clearly as you have. And I was hoping that you can inform the audience of some of the attempts, because they need to know that people have tried. And in particular, I'm referring to Dr. Safraz Naimi. If you could just inform the people here what he tried to do and what happened to him, so they understand how difficult it is to do what you're doing. And I again thank you and commend your efforts.
Thank you very much. The people have been doing, there are scholars who have been condemning, but one of my friends, Dr. Sarfaraz Naimi from Lahore, though nobody issued a written document or a fatwa like that, although just he gave a verbal fatwa on TV, and a few days later he was killed, murdered. So many other people of this kind who have been giving their fatwas, they were no more in this world. So the only single reason which I would, I can understand, I would appreciate, is the people don't find courage under the circumstances. You know, the presidents are not saved. In Pakistan particularly, the governments are not saved. For the last 20 years, hundreds of the ulama have been killed. Though they are so much powerful here, so the people here, and their access is everywhere. They can reach everywhere, there's no problem for them. So the problem is that I think they feel a little bit scared to declare in a publicly. And secondly, one thing, that this view has been given. There was no doubt about that. But there was a need of very comprehensive document of fatwa, which can be a historical document, which could cover every single major and minor aspect of this subject in the book, so that people may read it and find all Quranic evidences and Hadithic evidences and references. And if the youth, I'm not talking of those who are already brainwashed, they are senseless people, excluding them maybe a small percentage, but overwhelming majority, thousands of people who have potential to become suicide bombers, who are on the way, but they have not yet arrived at that point. They have become narrow-minded, they have become conservative in their views, they have become extremists, they have become radicals, but they have yet to become suicide bombers. These kind of thousands of people, they need, so that these kind of evidences should come in their mind, in their hands. They could read it, and this will create doubts in their mind. And they will see what we have been taught up till now was a different, and this is a different story, which has been given with evidences. When they will compare it, I hope, inshallah, majority of them, and thousands and thousands and thousands of them, would repent, and they will come on the right track, and they will leave this terroristic views. The need was to bring a very comprehensive, documented fatwa, a book in the form of a book, containing all evidences everywhere. So this was the basic.
Thank you. Time for one more brief question, please.
I'm Nabanita from NewsX, and I'm from an Indian channel, and you're from Pakistan. Pakistan is known to be a hotbed of terrorists breeding over there, and we are suffering because of it. But what I wanted to ask you, it was very good of you today to issue this fatwa, but how do you reach, on a practical level, how do you reach out to the hardliners who are already there?
Thank you. It's a good question. Same kind of fatwa launching ceremony is taking place in March. I opted the first launching ceremony in England. We were busy in celebrating Mawlid, and you know, under Minhajul Quran, our organization, there is the largest, the biggest Mawlid celebration of the whole Islamic world on 12th of Rabiul Awwal, which is attended by about 1 million people. And I delivered my speech on video conferencing from here. It takes place in Minar, Pakistan. So people were busy there. They have finished this celebration. Now they have started preparation for launch of the fatwa ceremony, and there going to be a very big launch ceremony in Pakistan. Verbal fatwa has already been issued, but that was just verbal. Now after printing of this book, they will launch there, and we are going to print it hundreds of thousands. And we try that it will go in hands of every single person who matters in the mosques, in libraries, in universities, in colleges, in schools, and other personnel, those who should read and make up their mind, and opinion makers. Inshallah, it will go there. And we hope, inshallah, with your help. One thing I should make it clear, although not related to this question, that whatever I have done just for the sake of prayer of my Lord and my Creator. And I have done just and just only for the betterment and the service of my deen Islam and for the service of humanity and mankind, which I believe in. I have not written this fatwa for pleasure of any government or any agencies, because the Minhajul Quran is a movement which has never ever up till today taken any kind of aid or grant in any manner up to the extent of single penny. We are just working on our own behalf. This ceremony is also has been sponsored by Minhajul Quran itself. But the only help and support which I will request and hope is that all these people, the media people, the concerned, those who are in a position to communicate this message in all parts and corners of the world, through media, if you just follow it up, convey this message to the world, and those thousands and millions of people who are lost, they are misguided, through your efforts these words and voice goes everywhere. It is published, articles are written, messages communicated, so that they become in need, they feel themselves in need to get this fatwa from anywhere. And let me explain, I never take a single penny as royalty on my books. Being author of 1,000 books, and 400 books have been published, and speaker of 7,000 topics, I in my life has never taken a single penny as an author or speaker on my royalties. I do just service of humanity, for sake of humanity and for prayer of my Lord or my God. I am just serving the mankind, and I request you to join this great cause of for mankind, so that the mankind which is burning in the fire of hatred and fire of extremism and the fire of terrorism and the fire of militancy, and this militancy which is dividing the world of mankind, so that by this effort which we have started, we should reunite the world again, and we should bring again a peace and tranquility and love and brotherhood and tolerance for the whole of mankind, and good messages communicated to East and West, and the people belonging to Islamic faith or belonging to other faiths, they should learn living together, and they should think that the terrorists are the common enemy of the whole mankind, and they don't belong to any religion. This is the only support which I want from you.
Thank you very much. Time is very short. We have to bring proceedings to an end. But before we do so, can I welcome Right Honourable Shahid Malik, Minister at CLG, welcome him to the proceedings and request that he give us a few words to express his views on this issue. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Brothers, sisters, good afternoon. I'm going to be relatively brief. Can I just say that it's an honour and a privilege to be here, and can I pay tribute to you, Dr. Qadri, for the sterling work that you're doing both here and, of course, across the world. And I really do think that you're the kind of individual that ought to be the role model for so many Muslims across the world. After 7/7, we did have some scholars who came together here, 100 or so. They gave a verbal fatwa. It was quite effective. But I think the work that you've done in giving the evidence base is really the solution in the long term. I want to just briefly say that when 7/7 occurred, the lead bomber, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, was one of my constituents in my district when I'm the MP. And it was a shock and a wake-up call for everybody in this country, but especially Muslims, because I don't think anybody could have believed, I certainly didn't before 7/7, that a Muslim who was born and brought up in the UK could commit this kind of act in the name of Islam. And my message is the same to Muslims as it has been since 7/7, that actually Muslims have got nothing to be ashamed of and nothing to apologise for because of 7/7. The last bomber before 7/7 was a chap called David Copeland. He bombed Brixton, Brick Lane, Soho. He killed 3, he maimed and injured over 80. He does not reflect white or Christian opinion any more than these evil 4 young men on the 7th of July represent Islam. And the point you made, that terrorism and religion, there is no linkage. But there is an important point here, that while there's a lot of anger and frustration that people have, Muslims have on international issues perhaps, on domestic issues, whatever it might be, none of it can legitimise violent extremism and terrorism. And the lethal ingredient that divides us from those four individuals is that they had a perverted and twisted interpretation of Islam that told them they can kill themselves and kill other innocent people and somehow they would go to heaven. It's our belief, I think, mainstream Islam, and you've powerfully articulated that today, that actually heaven isn't where these people will be going. Martyrs, they aren't. They're sinners, and they're going to be going to a very different place indeed. And just to summarise, I think the work that you do now is going to have benefits for mankind and womankind for decades to come. And I think we've always been of the view, whether it's from a government perspective, whether it's as a Muslim, that the solution to extremism in the name of Islam is true Islam, and the true Islam that you're espousing today and that you've got the evidence base for as well. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done, thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for the work that you will do. And inshallah, in the next life as well, may you get just reward for all the work that you do. And to everybody here as well, I shouldn't say thank you for coming along, because it's a privilege to be here, but I look forward to working with you and trying to ensure that collectively, that from a government perspective, where we work with you to try to make society safer for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you. My last sentence, the feast of peace and love. The whole mankind is hungry. Whole mankind is hungry. Feast is there, and feast is peace and love. But it is hidden and locked up. We have to break the doors, and the feast of peace and love is to be provided to the whole of mankind beyond the barriers. And we have to put the people belonging to all faiths, all dominions, all cultures and all religions together, whether they are Jewish, they are Christians, they are Muslims, or they belong to any other faith. We have to bring them together for that feast of peace and love, so that we may bring this world of hatred back to the world of love, and back to the world of peace, and back to the world of tolerance. This is our collective responsibility which we have to perform. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to say that the fatwa will be available for download on.
Have you given this copy to everybody?
So please do distribute it to whoever you know, your friends.
You have the English one, the summary, but the whole fatwa, although it is in Urdu, but you will receive the English translation afterwards because the summary is there. But this is a gift for everybody present here today. Please give one copy to everyone so that they may keep it as a record.
But to ask you just about what you are expecting as an impact in the Muslim world within this fatwa.
I hope the Muslim world, inshallah, if this depends upon the media based, the television channels and the newspapers and the electronic channels, if they propagate it as much and they arrange some talks on this and they convey it to each and every single individual of the Muslim world, particularly the youth, I hope they will read it and they will get benefit, and this will bring them a light of the real and true meanings of Islam, and this will bring them out of the darkness of their ignorance, and they will be able to understand what we were taught that was wrong. What we have been committing, that is totally wrong. Islam is not a piece of extremism or militancy. Islam is a piece of peace and love for the whole mankind. Holy Prophet was not for only the Muslims. He never stated in Holy Quran that Ya ayyuhan nas inni rasulun ila al-muslimin. He stated Ya ayyuhan nas inni rasulun ilaykum jami'a, and he was made wama arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin. So the message of Quran is peace, and message of Holy Prophet is love and mercy and compassion for whole of mankind. So we have to bring the better face of Islam for the whole mankind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sheikh, can you just give us your name and how you spell it so that anyone who doesn't know you will get it right?
My name is Dr. Tahir-ul-Qadri.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to ask is, how do you think you're going to get your message to the minds of young people who may already be on the road to extremism or terrorism?
I would divide them into two categories. A small percentage, that is minor, are those who have already been brainwashed. Excluding them, there are thousands of those young who have potential to become terrorists, and they have not become terrorists yet. They are conservatives, they are extremists, they are radicals, and having the potential or extremistic tendency, they can be used as terrorists in future. So these are the, you can say, more than 90% youth are on these various stages. This would be extremely helpful and influential to change their minds, because they have not entered practically in that terroristic area. So when they read it, they were confused. They were given this concept of Islam, the suicide bombing and blowing your own self. This is a, you can say, martyrdom operation, and it will directly lead you to Jannah, to paradise. And this is jihad.
Sheikh, as I was saying, how do you think you're going to get your message to the minds of young militants who may reject what you're saying today?
Young militants, everybody amongst them is not a terrorist. Majority are on their way to become a terrorist. So I think those overwhelming majority, those have tendency to become and potential to become terrorists. When they read it, their concept will be changed, because they were given wrong teachings about martyrdom, about jihad, and this suicide bombing will lead to paradise. When they read it, they will think that this is a forbidden act, this is an act of kufr which may lead to hellfire, and this thing will create a big doubt in their minds. And by reading all these evidences, I think they will be forced intellectually and academically to change their mind.
Previously, other Muslim scholars have issued fatwas against terrorism, especially in the wake of the 7/7 bombings. What makes your fatwa more significant?
The point is that all fatwas which were issued before, they were just verbal fatwas, just based on a few lines, without providing any strong evidence and original arguments from Quran and Sunnah, and addressing in detail all those relevant major and minor issues which are necessary to be addressed in order to satisfy the youngsters. So these things were not present, they were just a single condemnation, and sometimes the condemnations were conditional. So this fatwa, without any conditions and excuses, is a comprehensive condemnation, and it has provided hundreds of evidences of Quran and Sunnah so that they may be able to understand what is right and what is wrong.
When I was in Pakistan last summer, a cleric in Lahore who condemned suicide bombing was himself assassinated by a suicide bomber. Do you think that you're making yourself a target?
Yes, yes. I am already a target for the last 20 years. I know that nobody would tolerate this thing, but I am working for the mankind, to bring the mankind out of this crisis and to provide them, trying to provide them peace. As far as my life is concerned, I leave the matter to my Lord and Creator, depends on it. I'm not scared of anything.